And no matter how wonderfully you may be speaking, you're not speaking to groups every day on the TEDx stage or on Tricia's stage. So a book is a wonderful way to reach many people in an intimate setting on their own timeline. And you can reach people around the world.
Hey friends, welcome back to the Big Talk Podcast. I'm your host, Tricia Brouk, founder of the Big Talk Academy, award-winning director, producer, and author. And this is episode 446. In this episode, I am joined by the incredible Aurora Winter as we talk about doubling down on your message to change your income, your influence, and your impact. Aurora is a best-selling author, TV producer, media coach, ghostwriter, and successful serial entrepreneur. She uses her filmmaking expertise and neuroscience to help people communicate and get results. Whether it's raising 7 figures for a startup, negotiating for a raise, or enrolling a new client. A sought-after speaker and expert, Aurora is featured frequently in the media, including ABC, CBS, KTLA, and Success Magazine, Elle Magazine, and Oprah Radio. Her latest book, Turn Worlds into Wealth, Blueprint to Launch Your Business, Brand, and Book, is available now. If you have ever wanted to write a book, become an in-demand speaker, or communicate more effectively, you're going to definitely want to tune in to this conversation. Before we do this, I want to take a moment to give a shout out to our featured listener of the week. Everyone who takes the time to review our podcast is super important to me because your voice matters and your reviews are what help us grow. Jocelyn shared, "Knowledge is power. Listening to Tricia and her guests allows you to receive gems of knowledge. I've listened to quite a few podcasts and her YouTube channel and find myself hearing the words later as well, planting seeds that continue to grow." Jocelyn, thank you so much for taking the time to listen and review our podcast. I so appreciate you, and it means a lot to me knowing that these episodes are resonating with you. Thank you. All right, everybody, let's drop in. This episode of The Big Talk is sponsored by The Art of the Big Talk, Stepping into the Red Circle. If you desire to step into that red circle and wear the red crown, this 2-day masterclass is perfect for you. I'm going to pull back the curtain on what organizers are looking for so that you can apply and get chosen to take the big stage of your dreams. To learn more about this exclusive opportunity, hop on a call with our team at triciabrouk.com/book a call. Or if you're ready to jump in, go to triciabrouk.com/masterclass. The Big Talk is a safe space where I get to have conversations with people who have important stories to share. Because when we share these stories, we can change and even save a life. Big stages are waiting for you, and it's our responsibility to take them. Aurora, welcome to the Big Talk Podcast. I am so excited to have you here with us today.
Tricia, I'm so happy to be here and contribute to your listeners.
Aurora, let's start with your backstory. I'd love for you to take us back as far as you like and bring us up to speed with how you came to be with us in this very moment today.
Well, one of the pivotal moments in my life, one of those aha moments, I had just suffered a devastating loss. My husband had died. I had a 4-year-old son. I didn't have a business partner. I didn't have a business. I didn't have a husband, but I needed to find a way to take care of my little family of 2. And at that time, I was a screenwriter. So I was busy working on my screenplay at 4 a.m. in the morning, midnight at night, working super hard. When a friend invited me to go to a party, I'm like, no, I'm too busy. But he dragged me. And long story short, it ended up with me speaking on stage in Banff, actually, to an audience of 600 movers and shakers in film and television. The day before, I realized, I could just blow my reputation in one fell swoop here, and my neck went into spasm. But anyway, I got on stage. I pitched my idea in 20 minutes, and that one 20-minute talk changed my life. It generated 6 figures. It launched me into a great job in film and television. It sold a screenplay. There were just so many results. So my big aha, and this is one of the things I love to share with people, it's not about working till midnight or getting up till 4 a.m. It's about doubling down on your message, because one 20-minute talk or even a shorter talk dramatically changed your income, your influence, and your impact. And that's how I got to be where I am today, helping other people change their income, their impact, and their influence by turning their words into wealth.
This is so incredible. I'm so excited that we're having this conversation. I'm sorry for your loss. And I also would love for you to share with our listeners the importance of going for it. And you were in the middle of a lot, and you chose to get up on that stage and to trust that what you had to say for 20 minutes could potentially have an impact. Talk a little bit more about that.
Well, I'd love to be the role model for trust, but honestly, it was desperation. I had to make it work. And so I know you like to talk about decide, act, and trust. I was very strong on the decide and act, and I needed help with the trust. And what I found in my life is when I run out of trust, I just need to get to my knees and pray and ask for guidance from my friends, my family, and from a greater power. And when I show up, which is one of the things I love about you, Tricia, you show up of service. If I was thinking before that big talk in Banff, before 600 movers and shakers in the film and television industry, if I'd been thinking about myself and how do I look and is this going to sound okay, I don't think it would have worked as well as just thinking, I've got a really important story that I want to tell. I'd love to contribute this story. I think it really matters. And I was thinking about contributing as opposed to how do I look? Is there spinach in my teeth?
Right. All the things that we do. Yeah. Tell our listeners what Banff stands for, Aurora.
Banff is a small town in the Rocky Mountains in Canada, and it's now called the Banff Media Festival. It used to be called the Banff Film and Television Festival. So it's a place in Canada, sort of like NAPI or like the Cannes Film and Television Festival is in the south of France. It's Canada's version of pitching film and television. So I went from being the person pitching to the next year, the person receiving the pitches, because I was offered the job as head of development of Canada's largest film and television production company. And so I got to go to NAPI and got to go to the Cannes Film Festival and actually even walked the Oscars on the red carpet. So I've had a very interesting life. And now what I love to do is help other people. Somewhat similar to you, but I'm more focused on books and the written word, Tricia, is really help people see that their message matters, their story matters, that their life experience, their business experience matters. And how could they convey that expertise, that life experience in a way that can benefit others? And then I often help them turn that into a book or a pitch to raise capital.
Amazing. And we're going to talk about that in just a second. I would love, if you would, to share with me and our listeners what the story was you told on that stage, which completely catapulted you into your successful career.
My husband had recently died. I had a 4-year-old son, and I was writing a script about lost rituals. And the theme of the story was about how when fathers are absent, sons have to find a way to mentor themselves, to launch themselves into manhood, and how it's really not possible for a woman, no matter how hard she tries, to be the father as well as the mother. And so that story really mattered to me, Lost Rituals. It was actually optioned. There was a whole flurry of agent fielding offers on my behalf from Spelling Television and some Canadian producers. It never got made, but that's the other thing I learned. It's like you may not get what you think you want, but the universe will give you what you need. And it may be even better than what you thought you wanted. If you show up wholeheartedly, trying to be a contribution, good things will unfold.
Without question. Can you talk to us a little bit more deeply about why you believe leaders and entrepreneurs need books?
Yeah, I think that when you have a message, which is kind of my definition of a leader, someone who's leading others, has something to say, has something to offer. And no matter how much we love talking to people one-on-one, there's just not enough. There aren't enough hours in the day. And no matter how wonderfully you may be speaking, you're not speaking to groups every day on the TEDx stage or on Tricia's stage. So a book is a wonderful way to reach many people in an intimate setting on their own timeline. And you can reach people around the world. Also, Amazon is the number 3 search engine. So if you have an expertise, it really behooves you to have a book on Amazon as an initial get-to-know-you offer, as an appetizer of what you were up to. And that book can be of complete service in and of itself, but it can also be part of your funnel for people getting to know, like, and trust you. And then the right people will take the next step with you.
And what would you say to our listeners who are terrified about the grandness, the bigness of taking on the task of writing a book?
Well, you could probably speak to that because I think you wrote The Influential Voice during COVID lockdown, right? What was your experience?
Well, I've shared this briefly, but my experience was instead of going to Mexico with Joe for 10 days during COVID for our anniversary, I kept those 10 days to myself and wrote the book, which was very hard because I wanted to get it done during those 10 days. So I wrote the first draft in 10 days, but that's not everybody does that. So what's your process like, Aurora?
Well, you set yourself a high bar. I'm the founder and creator of the spoken author method because most first-time authors freeze. Very rare is the person who can write their book in 10 days, as you did, Tricia. Kudos to you. But most people can talk. They can talk about their life experience. They can talk and share their expertise. That's quite easy. It's just they freeze when they look at the blank page. So I have two examples of the spoken author method. One was the first time because I always do it first myself and go, oh, I guess that worked. I'll help other people do that. So I have a little book called Marketing Fast Track, the little book that launched a new business, $250,000 in 90 days. And that short book was when I was pivoting from one business to another business. I had been training coaches at the Grief Coach Academy, and I wanted to expand and offer people help with their messaging and with their marketing. I didn't know if people would be interested in that. So I thought, well, I'll just use a little short book as a lead magnet to test the market to see if this is viable. So I took a 1-hour interview. The director of coaching at Tony Robbins had interviewed me about marketing, and I gave some great content. I turned that into a little short book, less than 100 pages. And I leveraged that book immediately to get clients, to get on TV a couple of times, to get on radio. And when that little book grew up from a PDF to an actual printed book, it generated $250,000 of new business in 90 days. Let's just be clear. Those were not book sales. I gave the book away for free. People just covered the shipping and handling. But after people read the book and they got a sequence of videos so they could understand more who I am and what I'm up to, and that I, like you, Tricia, like to make a contribution, that generated $250,000 of new business. So that was my first experiment. And, you can turn a 1-hour conversation, a choreographed, well-organized conversation, into a little book that can make a difference and be a contribution, be something to be proud of. And now what I do many years later, well, not that many years later, but a few years later, I interview my clients and we basically create, if suppose there's 10 chapters in the book, then there would be 10 podcast-like episodes, each with a separate theme, the theme of that chapter. Then the client gets the 10 podcast episodes, which they can slice and dice into maybe 200 or so pieces of social media. And my team and I take the transcript from the messy first draft, from the spoken word, and turn that into a book. And that's what the spoken author method is. And that's so easy and fun. I have fun. My clients have fun. And they just dig deep into their content and their book unfolds organically and beautifully.
I love this method so much. It sounds so fun. And of course, we're going to share all of the information about the spoken author method in the show notes for sure. Can you share with us a little bit also about how excited you get when you're working with these authors and being the doula of birthing their books?
Oh, you get me. I love that. You get me. Yeah, it is so, I don't know. I think it's why it's put on earth. I see greatness in others. I just see it. I get it. I see amazing things that they don't even see that in themselves. I feel like a gold digger and they seem to only see themselves as the mud and muck. And I'm like, no, there's gold there. There's platinum there. There's silver there. And when I expose it and reveal it to them, because part of it's coaching, not just interviewing, and people go, oh, wow, you're right. There is gold there. And then when we get rid of the dirt and have the remaining beautiful precious metals and gems and gold and silver, then the person is like, their identity changes. Once you're a published author, your identity permanently changes. You've stepped up to a whole new level of contribution. You have a legacy, you have something your friends, family, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren can read. And you also you've transformed into somebody who's a published author. The root of the word authority is author. So I love what I do.
I can tell. I love that you talked about how much confidence comes along with creating a book and that you are changed after you're a published author. And I'll share with you and the audience briefly, when my book became available on Amazon, first, I thought, oh God, I hope everyone likes it. And second, it was that moment that I was different. And I liken it to when I got married. Joe and I were in a committed long-term relationship before we got married, but I was different after we got married. And I was different after people could buy the book. And it's just fact.
Yeah. I felt the same way. I was in a long-term committed relationship with my fiance. And I thought, what difference does it make if we're married? But it made a difference. It shifted things to the next level. And what is so cool about the step before you publish the book is you get more clear on your message. You spend more time looking at it and going, oh, what are the nuggets here? And by practicing it, reviewing the written word, speaking it out loud, you get more clear. Because when you talk, you know when you're rambling, you know when the person leans forward because you hit something, you hit a nerve. Right? You get that feedback when you're speaking to somebody. And that's what's so great about the spoken author method, because, we're talking, the clients are telling me their story and I'm leaning forward. I'm asking questions. They get immediate feedback on what's working and what do I want more of? And that just boosts their confidence. Yeah. So The Influential Voice has got a lot of great reviews. I think a lot of people liked your book, Tricia.
Thank you, Aurora. I want to highlight also, and I'm sure you've seen this with your authors, is that going through this incredible process with you, they're probably also creating a keynote and a TEDx.
Absolutely. The best parts of their book can be turned into a keynote and a TEDx. And also, I love to help people think through their back end. So Turn Words into Wealth, which is my more recently published book that came out last year, it actually was also based on a series of videos that I shot to make a contribution. But by the time I finished the book, you probably can't tell that it started off also with the spoken word. And also I always read aloud a book that I've written or that I'm ghostwriting for somebody else. I read it aloud. The spoken word really matters, and you can feel when it's working, when you can feel when it's not working. But anyway, back end. So it's very important for people who become authors or who are thinking about becoming authors. Think through your back end. You want to be a speaker. Tricia's your go-to for that. But think about your products, your services, your offers. What is the next logical step that people will want to take after reading your book? So for example, I think my book, Turn Words into Wealth, is super helpful, and it's complete unto itself. It shows you 7 different ways to make 7 figures with your message. But the next logical step for certain people is, hey, Aurora, could you just interview me and make this happen with ease and grace and faster and in a more fun way? And so think it through for your book. Think it through for your talk. What is your business strategy? I have an MBA and it makes my heart bleed that people who have great message, they stop giving their message because it's a hobby rather than a business. So think through, how can you make a bigger difference by having courses or being a paid public speaker? Or what is the next logical step that somebody would want after your book?
I love what you're saying. And you and I are both in the creative world where artists have this kind of lack mentality, right? Being a starving artist is not sexy, but many people think it is. So why is it? And I get this all the time. Why do speakers have a starving artist mindset about not getting paid? What's that about, Aurora?
Oh my gosh. I don't have the answer to that question, but I do have a rule, which is why questions just dig a deeper hole. Keep asking why. So as a coach, I always like to ask how questions. How could this, heart-wrenching event actually be of service to you and others? How can you release your scarcity mindset? How can you choose a prosperous life? What would a prosperous life look like? How can you offer something that makes money for you, but also is worth 10 times what people paid for it? So I'm an entrepreneur as well as a creator. Well, I think entrepreneurs are creators, but anyway, entrepreneurs solve problems at a profit. So what problems can you solve and how can you profit? And when you're solving somebody else's problems, they profit too. So just get over it.
That is the best. Y'all listening, just get over it and start asking to be paid.
Yeah.
Amazing. I want to touch a little bit on what you said just a moment ago about speaking the book out loud. When I recorded my audiobook, first of all, I couldn't believe how many typos I found. But also, I was fascinated that it actually landed as a performance. And I recorded my audiobook very much like a performance. I had a director. I spoke it as a performer. And I also was thinking about this at the time. You know, you're leaving a legacy of your book, which is amazing. And now I have the legacy of my voice. And there's something that I wanted to connect and highlight on the research that I have been doing before our call today, Aurora, which is you had this incredible conversation and interview about anticipating grief. And I want to touch on that because I feel like my audiobook is me anticipating the grief of the loss of me for others. So like other people, once I'm gone, they have an opportunity now to be with me. And I'd love to know what your thoughts are on that.
Oh, so many thoughts. Well, I still listen to audio recordings from Louise Hay. Mm-hmm. So she's passed on now. And from Wayne Dyer, he's passed on now. He endorsed my first book, From Heartbreak to Happiness. And that was like a happy dance. I did a football touchdown moment and he gave me a big hug and that meant a lot to me. So
beautiful.
I think anticipatory grief is something I've experienced many times. Most people experience it. And it can be used to motivate us to take action. You know, memento mori, the Stoic philosophy. We tend to live in this illusion of we're never going to die. That only happens to other people. No, we are all going to die. And anticipatory grief can be such a wonderful gift because it's the reality of our time on earth being precious and being short. And how do you want to use your time to make the biggest difference? How can you be the most creative? How can you be the most self-expressed? And how can you leave a contribution that can outlast you? So your talks that you have given, you know, they're captured and some of them I've watched already on YouTube. And that's lovely, Tricia. And my guess is that your book will outlast all of those videos, your audiobook as well. The really cool thing about books is I think they're like a seed, and like a seed, they can endure for hundreds of years, but then they germinate. They can germinate, but a seed, it's, you know, water and sunshine and soil. But for a book to germinate, somebody just needs to open the page or listen to the audiobook. And there's that fresh, personal, intimate connection that happens there. And one more tiny thing on anticipatory grief. Although I have lots more if you want to talk about it more. But one thing with my mother was failing. She was getting towards the end of her life. And I realized that denial was not going to be my friend here, but anticipatory grief was. And so I interviewed her a number of times and asked her about her life, asked her about growing up. And now I have those audio recordings that made them available to my family so we can hear her voice. We can hear the details of, you know, growing up in the prairies of Canada through the Depression and what it was like not to have a fridge, but to keep the milk from the cows cold in the creek. And I can turn those audios into a book. Some of them are also videos. So anticipatory grief provided that gift for me and for my family. Her wisdom lives on. And, you know, she died a few months later and that would have been too late.
I love that you're highlighting the empowerment of understanding anticipatory grief and how you made a decision to take action. So powerful.
Absolutely. And we can all do that. But whatever emotions you are experiencing, there can be a gift in it. If you listen, there's usually some way you can turn that into action. You know, when my brother called me, I was in California and my mother lived in Vancouver, BC, Canada. My brother called me and I'm at, you know, the coffee shop and he said, you know, Mom has a stroke. And I was floored and I had to do my own coaching process, the peace method on myself because I was like, oh my God, she's going to die. And I didn't want that to be so. But then when I really considered the contrary, leaned into accepting she's going to die. That is true. She is going to die. And then, well, given that she's going to die, what am I going to do about it? It's your decide, act, trust. And so I got on a plane and went to see her. We are all going to die, and we can use that to help us align our values and our actions every day so that we do the things that are meaningful instead of frittering our days away on, Facebook.
Right. How do you separate, however, catastrophic thinking from anticipatory grief?
That's a nice distinction. Boy, I wish I had a really clever answer to that because I love the question. I think anticipatory grief, I would say, it's true. It's true. Catastrophic thinking is not necessarily true. You're just terrorizing yourself with a hypothetical future possibility. It is true my mother's going to die. It is true I'm going to die. I'm sorry, Tricia. It's true all the listeners are going to die, and so are you. But it's not true. It's a catastrophic thinking to think that you're going to go up on Tricia's stage or a TEDx stage and all of a sudden forget everything and look like a deer in headlights. You're terrorizing yourself with a hypothetical future possibility.
Right. Amazing. You answered the question perfectly.
See, that's trusting. I'm like, okay, God, give me the answer. And it's like, oh yeah, there you go. See, this is the power of speaking, because you're asking questions that you really want the answer to. It is calling forth answers from me. And that's why I love the spoken author method. That's why I think speaking, there's something about listening, somebody actively listening that brings forth, that calls forth something magical, something conscious.
Ooh, you're touching on something that's so true. When you're writing a book alone, it can be extremely lonely. And I'm imagining doing this work with you is incredibly energizing and delightful. And you probably get the authors to think about things in a way that they hadn't even thought of.
Oh, exactly right. And it's so easy for them some of my authors, well, pretty much all of my authors are very intelligent, but they're intelligent in different ways. So I've got some more scientific people. We design the podcast interview questions in advance because it's the rough draft of the chapter. And they'll realize, oh, they just went from 0 to 60 and like, whoa, like they went, from assuming the reader had a master's degree. So then when I ask them more simple questions, they understand, oh, this is so much better. Why don't we step by step get to the really advanced material and not have people going, what the?
So fantastic. Aurora, are you ready for some fast talk?
You bet.
All right. What is your favorite book?
I love reading books, so it will change from day to day because I'm always reading a couple books. My current favorite is The Art of Impossible by Stephen Kotler.
Awesome. And who's your favorite speaker and why?
I love Mel Robbins. I really was touched by her TEDx talk. And the thing I like about it the most is that she almost forgot to say her 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. She later became famous for. So I love that little backstory that she almost forgot, the thing that was like the breakthrough.
Love that. How do you memorize when you're speaking?
When I am speaking, I don't memorize. I guess that's sort of a lie. I put my talks under my pillow and I seek to contribute. I focus on contributing and not memorizing word by word. I teach story structure. I'm sure you're very familiar with story structure. So I memorize the framework, but not the exact words. And that helps me be at ease because I know the structure inside. I know the various structures of stories inside and out.
Amazing. And what do you do the day before you speak, whether it's on a podcast, a stage, or in a virtual room?
The day before I speak or the hour before I speak, it's too late for me to be cramming material. That's the time for self-care. So I drink water, I exercise, I meditate, I pray, focus on being of service. I think about the other person. I think about the audience. And if I can find out a little bit more about them the day before or about the audience, that's what I do. Because if you show up and with the true intention of being a contribution, it'll go so much better.
For sure. Aurora, what podcast are you currently obsessed with?
I love a lot of podcasts, and I love your podcast, but I'll add The Creative Pen by Joanna Penn. I really like The Creative Pen by Joanna Penn. It's for creative people. And I love how authentic she is. And she's like me. She's a writer who does nonfiction as well as fiction. And I write fiction as well as nonfiction as well. And I like how she's forward thinking about artificial intelligence and how technology is going to change the creative space. So that might be a podcast to check out.
For sure. She's new to me. So thank you for that. It has been such an absolute delight and pleasure to hang with you this afternoon. Thank you so much for being a featured guest today, Aurora. Where can our audience get in touch with you?
Oh, thank you, Tricia. It's been really a delight hanging out with you as well. People can get a copy of my book, Marketing Fast Track, for free on Amazon, or they can take a deeper dive and get the book Turn Words into Wealth. Actually, both those books are wide on Amazon, Apple, etc., etc. My website is my name, aurorawinter.com, AuroraWinter.com. And if people would like some help with their book using the spoken author method, they can sign up for a complimentary business breakthrough call at bookcall.biz. I'd be glad to help people see if they've got a book inside them.
Everybody take advantage of that generous opportunity, because you do have a book inside of you. I'm so happy that you joined us today. Thank you, everybody, for dropping in. And remember, your voice matters. We appreciate you. Big love, everybody. As a thank you for listening to this episode, I want to gift you something super special. I have put together a comprehensive list of 50 speaking gigs. Yep, 50 gigs. So that you don't have to waste any more of your precious time Googling for random events. Outreach is the first step in connecting with decision makers, and getting paid to speak means pitching yourself to the right people. Head on over to triciabrouk.com/50 gigs and grab your free list today. Big love, everybody.
And no matter how wonderfully you may be speaking, you're not speaking to groups every day on the TEDx stage or on Tricia's stage. So a book is a wonderful way to reach many people in an intimate setting on their own timeline. And you can reach people around the world.
Hey friends, welcome back to the Big Talk Podcast. I'm your host, Tricia Brouk, founder of the Big Talk Academy, award-winning director, producer, and author. And this is episode 446. In this episode, I am joined by the incredible Aurora Winter as we talk about doubling down on your message to change your